Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today, I have the pleasure to have Dr. Catrina Mitchum. Welcome, Dr. Catrina.
Thanks, Richard. So much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, Dr. Katrina's been doing designing courses for adults online since 2009. So, I think you guys are gonna benefit from that episode. So I'm gonna jump in right into the topic. So what makes a great course?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Mhm.
Really, it depends on who is taking the course, who is teaching the course, and what the course topic is, right? Like, there's no standard answer to what makes a great course, other than it's something that's engaging and actually helps you reach the goals that you came for, right? People sign up for courses, whether that's formal education or they bought a course online. They do it because they want to change something. And so a great course helps you make the change.
Okay. So you talk about designing courses. So what's that all about?
So course design is really experience design, right? So you are designing a journey, a learning journey that someone is going to take. And that involves everything from when certain things are going to happen. So, like the sequence of the course, the activities, how you're going to keep them engaged, how you're going to keep them accountable, what content needs to be in there. And so it's really just kind of making all of those decisions and structuring it in a way where people can be successful.
And when you talk about structuring, when someone is thinking or starting to structure the course, what are the things that they have to think about, like the breakdown of a course? Because I imagine like it's like a storytelling, so from A to Z. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I like to start people out with an exercise called the five whys exercise. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not, but it's basically asking why. So you pick your course topic. Let's say your course topic is I don't know, give me a course topic, Richard.
Personal development.
Okay. Course topic is personal development. Why does your potential client, want to do personal development? And so then you answer that question. And it might be because they are suffering from burnout. Why are they suffering from burnout? And so you keep asking why until you get to the core problem that your course is solving, right? Because a lot of people start out the same way that you did with a broad general topic, and you really need to focus it, or you're going to end up with a course that's way too big and way too bloated and impossible to do, right? Most people sign up for a course not wanting like a certificate. Like they don't buy a course in the industry in order to go get a degree. If they wanted to do that, they would actually go get the degree, right? And so keeping courses really tight and specific is a really important first step. And then creating goals, right? A lot of courses that I've seen, I do a lot of audits, right, of courses that aren't doing well. And a lot of courses don't have like those specific goals that clients are supposed to be reaching. And then after that, after you've got your goals, you kind of work backwards from there. So the structure comes from using the goals and that core problem as your foundation. And then, okay, I've got these goals. How do I know when I have reached that goal? Right? That's the first question. And then what is the step that gets me there? And then what's the step before that? And the step before that, and kind of working your way backwards. It's an instructional design method called backwards design. Um, I think a lot of people use it in setting goals for themselves. And so it's just kind of using it to set goals for your clients to reach when they come to you.
Okay. You said you had five of them. What's the other ones?
Oh, the five whys.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just ask yourself why five times to
Okay.
get to the core problem.
And
Yeah.
how long do you think a course should be?
uh, However long it needs to be, which is not a good answer, but it really just depends on not only what you're teaching, right? So it's going to take longer to teach something like recovering from burnout than it is to teach something like analyzing where you're spending your time, right? Those are just two things that one is a bigger leap than the other. The other thing is considering who's coming to you, right? So if you have a bunch of busy parents as your ideal client, they're going to take longer, right? They're going to assume they have more time. And it's just going to take them longer to get to that goal than someone who isn't caregiving. Let's say it's not just parents, it's people that are caregiving. They have less time to spend on things that are for themselves, for that professional or personal development. So it's really a balance of those things. And also you, right? Like helping somebody get through something fast takes a lot from you as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you had taken a course before in the past and it was a bad experience. How long was the course and how it was set up?
It wasn't a certain length. And that was part of the problem. And the other problem was, in fact, the setup. It was a situation where I opened it up. I opened up the platform. There was no like where to start. There was no clear progression of like this module will help you get to this module or anything like that. It was just a bunch of like groups of videos that were completely disconnected. And then when I got into the videos, there were like hour to 2 hour long recorded Q&A. So even within the videos, there was maybe a little bit of content, but nothing about like how I should be applying it or the questions weren't organized. So sometimes the same question was asked in different videos. And instead of like pulling them together into something like a frequently asked questions, the question and answer kept coming up and up and up. And so it was wasting my time because I kept listening, right, to the and them answer the same question over and over. So it was a disorganized mess.
So nowadays you have mostly, I think it's videos that people do when they do the course. They record. There's different ways, but you have audio also and graphics. So talk to us about that, about the options.
Yeah, yeah. So really, I think people lean toward videos because we all are guilty or have in the past said, well, I don't know how to do this thing. Let's go look it up on YouTube. And so it feels like video is the natural way to get the information, but it's not always the best way. You know, I had somebody that I've worked with in the past whose focus was on getting families outside into nature more. And so video was not actually the best choice. The video was creating a problem because if you want to be out in nature, chances are pretty good you don't have cell service. You also don't want to be watching like a video while you're trying to enjoy nature. And so we moved to audios, solve the problem, right? Audios are easy to download. They're also easy to listen to as you're walking around. It just really depends on, again, this is going to be a little bit repetitive, but what you're teaching and who you're teaching, you know, and what the goals are and whether or not you pick a video. Some good questions to ask are, does it need to be told and seen, right? That's the point at which you should definitely use a video because it's helpful. If you can just tell them the thing and the visual is not important, then tell them the thing and then have a transcript, right? For the folks that feel like they need a visual, they can read it instead of listening to it. So that gives options, but also makes it so that the way that you're delivering the content matches what they need and also what the kind of content is.
Another thing that might stop people from creating a course is that there's a lot of content online, so there's a lot of information online. So whatever topic like someone is searching, it's already there. So one person might say, so why am I gonna, is it really gonna be okay for me or profitable or whatever word someone wants to say to put out a course because there's already information out there about the topic that I want to talk about for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. I think it leans into the biggest mistake I see, and that is actually starting with content, right? Courses are not just information. They shouldn't just be information. And so taking a step out of delivering information as a way to teach and into active learning, that one is going to set you apart from everyone else, because a lot of people are just dumping content into a video vault and calling it a course, but people don't learn by pouring information into their heads. And so having ways where they can actively learn what you're trying to teach them is going to be something you can use in your marketing. And people are kind of tired of the courses that are just information, that don't have them doing action, that aren't moving them forward toward the goals that they have. So I think that is the first piece, is making sure that it's active learning, and also finding the pocket, right? So we gave the example earlier of personal development, right? There's a lot of personal development courses out there. You're very right. So finding that narrowed down focus, like burnout, but maybe burnout from caregiving, or burnout from taking care of someone with special needs, right? Like finding the very, very specific thing to focus on is another good way to break out from from the rest of the pack, right? But also, once you have that topic and an idea of what the goals are going to be, start asking people, right? Validate the idea early, because then you have an idea of whether or not it's something folks are interested in. And that means people that are like in your immediate circles or in your extended network. It's kind of about doing market research, but making it targeted, not just, are you interested in burnout? It's, are you interested in a course on recovering from burnout, from taking care of someone with special needs? And have like a description. Is being able to care for them and care for yourself a goal, right? And that can tell you a lot about potential buyers and who they are as learners, right? What their own goals are.
You were talking before about the active learning.
Mhm.
How could someone get to that level, like from content creation, giving information, into active learning?
Starting with the goals and the backwards design, right? So asking, what are the steps that get them to that goal? But then what are the tasks? What are the concrete things that they need to do in order to consider it like a complete step? And so doing that backwards design work with a focus on, okay, well, what are they going to do? Will really help you get into the active learning pieces, and then figure out what content they need to do the action. That will also prevent your course from being like super bloated with a bunch of information that people don't need. I don't know if you've ever taken a course like that, where it wasn't really quite clear why I was watching this video or reading this thing, because it wasn't clearly connected, or it wasn't going to help me get to the goal. And I think that happens because you know a lot of stuff, right? You're an expert in this thing that you're trying to teach. And so it can be really easy to be like, I want to share everything I know about this topic. But sharing it in like really concise ways is actually more beneficial to client success.
Who should start a course?
Anybody that wants to, like, if you know something really, really well, and you want to teach it to someone and it's something that's valuable. But I wouldn't start building anything without validating your ideas, and creating a course map. So a course map is another instructional design tool, and it gives you just like an umbrella view of everything that your course is going to have, right? And then you can pick and choose what to build before you sell it, and what to build after you sell it. But it makes it so that you can be flexible, that first time that you run a course. And so I always, no matter how much experience you have, recommend running a beta test, because that's going to tell you what to keep, what to toss, what's the most useful, where people get stuck, because you don't ever really know how it's going to be experienced without real live people in it.
I know you have some opinions about the evergreen courses. So talk to us about that.
So I think that sales funnels can be evergreen. I think it's harder to make courses evergreen because what we know changes, and what we want people to do in order to learn those things changes. Now, some things can be, right? Like I have an introduction video to the 5 whys exercise. I'm probably always going to keep some version of that because it is such a useful exercise. It's not an exercise I made up, right? I'm borrowing it and just applying it to my situation. And that's probably content that I don't know that I'll ever change. But how I get people there, that has been changing, right? I used to have like a spreadsheet and now I have a table and now I have AI prompts. And so that's something that I've kind of recorded a couple different times as I've changed how people are doing that active learning. I have changed my video explaining how to do that particular activity. And so you kind of have to adapt to who is buying your course too. And that, like, over time, that might change. So you can do evergreen courses, but I don't think that they're sustainable long term. If you want something sustainable long term, there's still going to have to be some things that you have to do to adjust and adapt to the market, to who your clients are, to what the information is out there, right? 5 years ago, I wasn't talking about AI in courses. Things happen in the world that change how you are talking about and doing things. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so speaking about AI, how do you think that's gonna play out in regards to creating courses?
So I've done a lot of AI in formal education too. And so when I started to pull it into course creation, I often ask it to act as an instructional designer. And sometimes it gives me some good stuff and sometimes it gives me absolute garbage. And so I think it makes a really good like teaching assistant where you can ask it to help you organize information, to help you expand on certain things. To help you like get through some activities that maybe you're struggling with. Like I have something in my own program that it's just a hard thing to teach. Right. And so I've been back and forth with AI a couple of times to try to tweak and understand and have it play the part of a student, how I can make it better. And so I always have to look at it though, and I have to correct it because sometimes it's like, that's not actually how that should work. And so remembering that you are the expert in this thing. And unless you are taking all of that expertise and putting it into the AI, then chances are pretty good you're going to have to keep checking what kind of output it's giving you.
So what about the marketing? Once the course is done, what's your strategy, or what are the things that people should pay attention to?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that you have to build it before you market it. I think you should have a course map before you market it. And then using those things that make your course unique and pulling those into your marketing. I also think that in terms of sales, having a wait list is a really good idea because it lets you know how many people are potentially interested in buying it. And then doing a beta pricing on it. And so the marketing you can pull from all of that really targeted market research you've already done. So even when you were back to just like having that idea and like a description and a couple of goals, you were getting feedback from people, right? Real life people that you potentially want to sell to, using their language in your marketing and using what they were telling you in answering those questions. can really go a long way in, part of the battle, as you said earlier, is kind of showing how you're different, how you're standing out in what feels like a crowded market. But chances are pretty good is that the very narrow thing that you know how to do under like the umbrella of personal development, it's marketable, right? You just have to figure out how to say the words. And it's okay to use the words that you got in that targeted market research.
So what would be your last words in regards to everything that we talked about?
If you want to make a course, validate the idea first. I think the biggest mistake I see is folks starting something because Joe Smith said that they should build a course, but really think about like how it's going to function in your business, and also whether or not somebody is going to be interested enough to buy it. So you're not wasting time and energy.
But then again, if someone has a great community, uh,
Mhm.
maybe it's not necessarily gonna, maybe they, even if they have a large following, maybe it's 50-50. So no one really knows what's gonna happen once if they decide to start a course. So what would you have to say about that?
Yeah. So if you have a big audience, I mean, my advice is kind of the same. Ask them. You have the perfect audience to ask about whether or not it's a good idea and whether or not it's something they would buy. You could even, if you have a bigger audience, you could give them three options like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a course on this, this, or this. What is most appealing to you? And then the one that more people vote for, take that as the thing that you develop next. And nobody said that you can only have one course. Sometimes a collection of mini courses that are more achievable and give folks a combination of quick wins but also big wins can really go a long way in making it something that is sustainable.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
I have a YouTube channel called Course Creator Playbook because plays are great plans that often go awry if you're familiar with sports. And my website is cmlearningdesign.com.